Have you ever walked away from a crowded room, not because you disliked the people, but because something deep inside whispered, "This isn't it. There's something more real, more meaningful than this." If you've ever felt that quiet dissonance in social settings, a subtle detachment, a pull towards solitude not rooted in arrogance, but in an inner sense that life's deeper truths lie elsewhere, then you're not alone. In fact, you may be standing at the edge of one of the most radical philosophical insights ever offered about intelligence, solitude, and the human condition. And no one expressed that truth more honestly, or more brutally, than Arthur Schopenhauer. Often labeled the philosopher of pessimism, Schopenhauer didn't merely tolerate solitude, he revered it. For him, the intelligent person's rejection of social life wasn't a flaw, it was a natural consequence. But why? Because intelligent people, he argued, see through the veil. They recognize the shallowness of ordinary interactions, the performative rituals of social life, the endless small talk that skirts around truth without ever touching it. Have you ever felt that? To the thinking mind, this isn't just boring, it's deceptive. Life is short, time is precious. So why waste it on the superficial? Let's pause for a moment. This isn't an attack on human connection. Schopenhauer wasn't advocating for misanthropy. He was advocating for authenticity. But according to him, most social behavior isn't driven by love or curiosity. It's driven by ego, by the need to appear clever, desirable, superior, important. And for those with deep intellect and introspection, this constant performance becomes unbearable. The intelligent person sees social life as a stage where everyone is acting, and the more aware you become of the script, the harder it is to pretend it's real. Schopenhauer famously wrote, "The more unintelligent a man is, the less mysterious existence seems to him." Let that sink in. The shallower the mind, the more comfortable it is with surface-level life. But those who think deeply, those who reflect on mortality, suffering, time, find everyday conversation to be a kind of noise, a distraction from something more profound. And the louder that inner signal becomes, the less tolerable the noise is. Like this video if any of this resonates so far, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep, thought-provoking content. Have you ever found yourself mid-conversation and suddenly realized it all feels fake? Like you're not participating, you're just watching a play? That's not cynicism, that's insight. It means you're waking up. And as Schopenhauer would say, waking up often means walking away. But solitude doesn't mean loneliness. In fact, for the intelligent person, solitude is the space where the mind becomes most itself, where it reads, creates, thinks, without interruption. They don't reject social life because they can't handle it. They reject it because they've outgrown it. Here's a deeper question for you. When was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically, but mentally, spiritually. And what did you find there? Emptiness or something sacred? Because at the heart of Schopenhauer's philosophy is a bold idea. Solitude is not a punishment. It's a privilege, a place where illusions fall away, where the soul breathes, and where truth begins to emerge. Yes, it's uncomfortable at first, but in that silence, the intelligent mind doesn't wither, it awakens. But there's more. Schopenhauer argued that intelligence and suffering are inseparable. Why? Because to see life clearly is to see its tragedy, its impermanence, its chaos, its constant, gnawing hunger. To know deeply is to suffer deeply. Not because intelligence makes life worse, but because it reveals it more honestly. He believed that all human existence is driven by what he called the will, an irrational blind striving that underlies everything we do. It makes us desire, chase, crave, endlessly. But here's the problem. The will can never be satisfied. The moment one desire is fulfilled, another arises. And so we live in a cycle, brief moments of satisfaction, followed by new hunger, over and over again. This, he said, is the tragic structure of life. So what do you think? Have you felt this inner pull towards solitude? Do you sense that most social interaction is just a performance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's start a conversation that goes deeper than small talk. And remember, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Have you ever noticed that your moments of deepest suffering don't always come from external tragedy, but from internal clarity? Not from heartbreak or failure, but from realizing that everything you once thought would bring meaning is fleeting. Schopenhauer understood this deeply. He wrote, A man can be himself only so long as he is alone. But he also knew that solitude doesn't just reveal who you are. It also reveals the pain you've been distracting yourself from. Not just personal pain, but existential suffering. The suffering of being conscious in a world that often seems indifferent or even cruel. Have you ever felt that strange heaviness, not tied to a single event, but born from the realization that all joy is temporary, that your relationships are finite, that even your greatest achievements may one day be forgotten? That's not dysfunction, that's not depression, that's clarity. And for Schopenhauer, that clarity is the burden and the gift of the intelligent mind. The more you understand the world as it is, the more difficult it becomes to live comfortably inside its illusions. So, what do you do with that pain? Do you numb it, ignore it, or face it and let it transform you? Because Schopenhauer believed that this very pain could lead not just to despair, but to liberation. Once you recognize that the will, that blind, endless striving for more, is the source of suffering, you can begin to detach. You can stop chasing, stop craving, and start living differently, more simply, more quietly, more mindfully. Think about it. What if your suffering isn't a sign that something is wrong with you, but a sign that you're beginning to transcend the trivial? What if pain is the price of wisdom? Schopenhauer would say it's not just true, it's necessary. The intelligent mind must pass through suffering the way gold passes through fire. It is purified by it. It is stripped of illusion. It is made real. This is why many highly intelligent people often appear melancholic, even when everything in their lives seems fine. They're not reacting to their circumstances. They're responding to reality. And yet, in that sorrow, there is a kind of quiet dignity. The dignity of no longer needing to pretend, no longer chasing what doesn't matter, no longer clapping for the show everyone else insists is real. So let me ask you, what illusions are you still clinging to, just to avoid the discomfort of truth? And what might happen if you let them go? Not to fall into despair, but to fall into clarity. Freedom from the crowd. Why detachment is the ultimate rebellion. There is a quiet revolution that begins, not in protests or performances, but in the solitude of the awakened mind. It begins the moment you stop looking at the world with longing or resentment, and start seeing it with clarity. The moment you realize that most people are chasing illusions, recognition, approval, power, influence, even love, filtered through the lens of ego. And once you see that, you start to feel something dangerous. Freedom. Schopenhauer didn't call the masses evil. He saw them as blind, not malicious, but guided by instinct, conformity, and the will, and the crowd. It demands that you blend in, that you smile when you want to scream, that you trade your inner truth for outer validation. But what if you stopped? What if you walked away? Not in bitterness, but in freedom. Because stepping away doesn't isolate you, it liberates you. Detachment, Schopenhauer said, is not apathy. It's not numbness. It's the radical act of refusing to let your identity be controlled by the crowd. It's choosing your own values, your own rhythm, your own truth, even when it costs you applause, attention, or approval. If you're still here, you're not afraid of depth. So subscribe to the channel for more content that challenges the surface and speaks to the soul. Like this video if it resonates. Share it with someone who's walking the same inner path, and comment below. What have you walked away from in order to find yourself? A final reflection. How much of your life is truly yours? The clothes you wear, the dreams you chase, the opinions you repeat. Are they yours, or are they echoes of a world that never truly saw you? Schopenhauer invites us to ask, what part of your life would fall apart if you stop pretending? Because detachment doesn't mean you reject life. It means you choose what actually matters. Less time chasing praise, more time contemplating truth. Less scrolling, more thinking. Less solitude is not emptiness. It's essence. It's not a failure, it's a return to yourself. So I leave you with this. In a world that's always telling you to be more, do more, show more, what would it look like to simply be? The sacred power of solitude. Schopenhauer's final truth. Schopenhauer believed that the highest minds are solitary, not because they dislike people, but because they crave truth. And truth, he said, is rarely found in noise. It's found in stillness, in books, in thought, in nature, in the silent confrontation with one's own mind. Have you ever felt that pull, not away from people, but towards something deeper. This is why so many thinkers, artists, mystics throughout history sought seclusion, not to escape life, but to dive deeper into it, to hear the kind of music that only plays in silence, to access insights that cannot be found in the crowd. But let's be honest, solitude is not easy. It doesn't just offer peace, it demands truth. It forces you to face what you've buried, the disappointments, the grief, the fears you've hidden by staying busy, staying social, staying distracted. And yet, it is in that confrontation that wisdom begins to grow. Ask yourself, what are you avoiding by staying constantly connected? What might you hear if you finally allowed yourself to be silent? Schopenhauer saw solitude as a mirror, a brutal but honest one. It doesn't show you who you pretend to be, it shows you who you are. And in that reflection, if you have the courage to truly look, you begin to see someone real, not a persona, but a person. He once wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free." That line is just as radical now as it was in the 19th century, because we're told freedom means having choices, going anywhere, doing anything. But Schopenhauer flips that. Real freedom, he says, is inner. The freedom to think without censorship, to feel without manipulation, to live without performance. In solitude, we stop reacting and start reflecting. We stop consuming and start creating. And over time, something sacred happens. We stop being pulled by the world's demands and start being drawn by our own purpose. This is where wisdom is born, not in society's noise, but in the quiet room where your soul finally speaks. But solitude isn't exile. It's not a punishment. It's a place to return to, a home, a space to recalibrate and remember. Because once you've touched that stillness, once you've tasted that clarity, you carry it with you, even into the noise. You become the kind of person who can stand in a crowd and not be lost in it. Engage with others and not be consumed. Listen, not just to respond, but to understand. That's the true power of solitude. It doesn't just change how you are when you're alone. It transforms who you are when you return. So let me leave you with this. What might you discover if you allowed yourself to be truly alone? Not just without people, but without noise, without distraction, without the need to be anyone other than yourself. Because Schopenhauer believed that in the silence of solitude, we don't lose ourselves. We finally find ourselves. And in that finding, we begin to live, not as products of the world, but as creators of our own meaning. If this spoke to you, consider subscribing. More philosophy, more stillness, more truth every week. Like, share, reflect, and comment below. When was the last time you truly felt at peace in your own company?